Today, my friends, we're going to be talking about Laughing Jack. If you guys don't know who Laughing Jack is actually a sadistic clown who used to be an imaginary friend of a little boy until he forgot about him. Today, we're going to be talking about pretty much how Jack came alive, how Jack kind of became a person, how he kills people, what kind of happens with him. So let's jump right into it. So Laughing Jack was created by a guardian angel. Laughing Jack was also initially a colored Jack-in-the-Box, whose personality would reflect its owners. And he was actually sent as a Christmas present to Isaac Grossman in the 1800s. So Isaac actually abandoned Laughing Jack and went to boarding school, which threw Jack for a loop. Laughing Jack also grew up emotionless, seen as though he would be reflecting what his owner was and how his owner acted. Isaac grew up to be a cold-hearted serial killer who kidnapped, tortured, and murdered a ton of his neighbors. So of course, sooner or later, Jack was going to become just as evil as Isaac. One day, Laughing Jack was accidentally released. He appeared a little bit taller, a little bit darker, and a little bit more demonic. Just a version of himself that he never saw. Jack then found Isaac and tortured him and killed him, as in the way Isaac would do to his victims. To pass the time, Jack visited a ton of kids, most of them being lonely and neglected by their parents, siblings, and they all had imaginary friends. Eventually, Jack would torture and kill them. He would trap their souls in a nightmarish realm that kind of resembled a carnival or a fair, and the song Pop Goes the Weasel would continuously play on loop for all of eternity. Just sounds horrible. And here's a story that's the icing on the cake for Jack. Laughing Jack visited a lonely 5-year-old named James. Jack was his imaginary friend. James told his mother, but she completely dismissed him. One night, James' mother had a nightmare, and it was with Laughing Jack in it. In her dream, she was actually able to witness all of the souls that Jack had in that carnival land that continued to play Pop Goes the Weasel. Yeah, she was able to see all of his past victims in her dream. The next day, Laughing Jack actually places James' action figures right over his mother's bedstand, presumably to taunt her. Questions James, and he simply just tells her the truth. Later that night, James actually receives a handful of candy from Laughing Jack from his garden. James' mother notices this, and she demands that he hands the candy over and asks him how he got it. He tries to explain to her mom, it was Laughing Jack, mom, it was Laughing Jack, and she does not believe him. Then he goes, alright mom, I didn't tell you the truth. It was the next door neighbor. Jack eventually kills Fido, the family dog, and hangs its body in the kitchen from the light fixtures, and trashes the complete rest of the kitchen. He also stuffs the dog's guts full of candy. The mother witnessed this and took her son next door, where she called the cops. The police pretty much just dismiss it and say it was just a robbery. But James's mom does not believe that. She claims that she locked all the doors and windows, so the person who did this had to have already been inside. They both return and the mom decides that she's gonna check the baby monitor. The mother hears a soft moan coming from James's room and she enters. She sees her son nailed to the wall. His eyes, his tongue, and his teeth have all been removed. She also sees Jack in the corner, just snickering and laughing at her. The mother grabs a knife and starts trying to kill Jack, but he simply vanished into a black cloud. The mother then, as she was trying to stab Jack, accidentally stabs her son and kills him. The police then came over and arrested her. She of course claims insanity, seems as though she was telling people that she saw Laughing Jack. And while she's in the mental institution, Jack continues to play Pop Goes the Weasel outside of the door. So today, my friends, I'm going to be telling you the tale of Sally Williams, or also known as Sally. She's a very young girl who enjoys playing with her friends. So one fateful night changed her life forever. Sally is always seen wearing a pink dress covered in dirt and blood, with bruises all over her body. Now you're probably wondering, where did those come from? So let's take it back a little bit. It was just one summer night and Sally's mother calls her in early. Sally's mother tells her, hey, your Uncle Johnny's gonna be coming into town. Sally was super excited and couldn't wait. She hadn't seen Uncle Johnny in so long, but she didn't know that this night would change her life forever. That same night that Uncle Johnny came into town, he actually killed Sally. But Sally did come back as a ghost. Also, Sally's first mission with coming back to life was to kill her uncle. She ended up going to the jail cell where he stays and scared him to death completely. That's the only person as we know of that she killed. And with Sally coming back to life, her sole goal was just to scare people. And she actually returned back to the house that her Uncle Johnny killed her. She stays there and plays with the kids when they have no one else to play with. But as soon as she sees an adult in the house, she immediately starts to mess with them, trying to make them go insane. It is believed that Sally only scares people, she never kills them, which I guess is a good thing for them. Sally also, with her new formed power, can actually throw things at people, meaning that as a ghost, she can pick something up and throw it across the room. The bigger the object, the more energy it takes, so normally she'll only use something small, like a TV remote or a piece of fruit, and that's only if someone is being harmed by someone who doesn't deserve it. She also gets extremely jealous. If one of her playmates is playing with someone else or has another sibling and she gets very jealous, she will try to separate them because she wants to be the one getting the sole attention. She also has this very famous line, and if you hear it, I would suggest you run. She always says, play with me. My question to you guys is, would you play with her? In April of 2012, R.S. Riley was having a hard time sleeping. He always noticed that he stayed up 10 times later than all of his roommates, so he decided to start going on late night walks. He was dealing with insane nightmares and awful night terrors, so he figured why not get some exercise in. He was always told as a kid that some of the worst nightmares happen to people that are actually awake. Riley had been taking his late night strolls for the last 4 years and never ran into an issue. He would even tell his friends that he trusted drug dealers sometimes more than them. He would say that everyone in the town is so polite. That's probably why his guard was down. It was a Wednesday night around 1 a.m. and Riley had gone a little bit farther than normal. He was in a police patrolled park park, which normally would be super safe, which is again probably why he felt so comfortable. But he did notice something was a little off that night. He noticed that the town itself was practically dead. There was no one around. Normally he would run into people all the time, even at crazy hours like 1 a.m. He rounded the corner and went down a super dark alleyway, where in the distance he saw a silhouette of a very tall and lanky man who seemed to be dancing or doing some type of dance walk. Riley noticed that there was just something off about this guy and felt very uncomfortable. Riley figured that this guy just had way too much to drink and gave him a little bit more space on the sidewalk. Riley got a little bit closer and noticed that he made a huge mistake. There's no way that this guy was drunk. He was moving way too gracefully in his walking dance. He was dressed in an old suit and his neck was practically broken, staring at the sky. Riley also noticed that his eyes were practically popping out of his head, and his smile was something unhuman. Riley crossed the street to give this guy a little bit more space, but then the man stopped dancing as soon as he crossed the street and was just staring at him with those dead, expressionless eyes bulging out of his head and that very odd smile. Riley noticed that the guy was looking at him and started to walk a little bit faster, trying to put a little bit more distance in between them. Then as Riley's a couple blocks away, he turns around and notices that the guy is crouched over, smiling and staring at him. He didn't hear this guy creep up behind him. The man then walked directly up to Riley thinking to himself, hey, I need to scream at this guy and let out some type of intimidating roar, and he just made a peep and the guy turned around and ran away. Riley was super embarrassed and didn't know how it worked. Riley was about a block away from his apartment and going to be safe. And then he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around to see the smiling man sprinting directly at him, with his eyes popping out of his head and that unhuman-like smile staring at him. Luckily, Riley's adrenaline kicked in and he was able to run faster than the guy and get to his apartment. Extremely terrified, but still alive. Riley then lived in the city for 6 months after that and then moved. And Riley never went on another late night walk. Today, my friends, we're going to be talking about Jeff the Killer. Jeff's first sighting on the internet was in 2008, when someone ended up posting a random picture of Jeff in his extremely pale skin and red bloodshot eyes. I mean, reasonably so. They say in 2008, when this image was leaked, it was actually leaked through 4chan, which was one of the biggest forums back in the day. So the story takes a little bit of a dark turn. There was a girl named Katie Robinson who posted a picture on the 4chan site. It was a selfie in her room. And it didn't take long for people to start being extremely rude to her, making fun of her weight, calling her ugly, and it pretty much pushed her to suicide. It is said that the picture that she took in her room of herself was actually helped and inspired Jeff the Killer, the way that he looks, which, come to think about it, that's really up. And now, the full backstory behind Jeff the Killer. As a teenager, Jeff moved with his family to a brand new village. There, he was bullied and picked on constantly because he was the new kid. Later on down the road, he was jumped by 3 boys that he had no idea who they were, and they were trying to rob him. Jeff, in an absolute insane amount of rage, fought the kids back and actually kicked all of them. But sadly, his brother who was with him actually was caught by the police and put in jail. Later on, the story continues where Jeff was invited to his neighbor's birthday party. Jeff ends up going to the birthday party and realizing that the 3 kids that he fought, that he absolutely beat the shit out of. Jeff gets to the birthday party and everything seems to be calm. Jeff was very excited for the birthday party and ends up going. He ends up getting there and realizing that the 3 kids that he previously fought actually showed up, and they were looking for revenge, not any cakes. That was so corny. So these guys picked the fight with the wrong man. Jeff ends up killing 2 of them, and then the last one ends up throwing alcohol and bleach on him and setting him on fire. As soon as the fire attack happens, he ends up losing his mind completely. He ends up burning off his eyelids so he never has to blink. And he cut his cheeks just so he would always have a smile on his face. Jeff's mother hears him laughing and making insane noises in the bathroom. She walks in and sees what her son has done and what he looks like now, having no eyelashes and an absolutely insane smile that he carved himself. He does also have the bloody knife in hand. And this is where Jeff kind of loses his mind. She runs into her room where her husband is and asks him to get the shotgun ready. Before the dad can do anything, Jeff walks in and stabs him completely to death. Shortly after, he does the same thing to his brother who had recently just gotten out of jail, and the story goes as follows. To this day, it is said that Jeff the Killer will sneak into people's houses while they are sleeping and kill them while they're asleep. His goal is to take as many lives as humanly possible. So I'm not gonna lie, what's going on, everybody? My name is Chris, back and bringing you guys yet a brand new video. As you can see by the title, today we're gonna be talking about smiledog.jpg. If you guys don't know what that is, it's practically one of the most haunted images on the internet. Well, at least the original is. The original can cause you to do actual harm to yourself just by seeing it. Smiledog.jpg, or just smile.jpg, has been floating around since 1992, which means that this cursed image has been haunting people for a very long time. Most of the smiledog.jpgs, or the smile JPEGs that have been out 2008 and 2009 and 2010, are not the real one. The dog with the red eyes, not really something you have to worry about. It's the original copy itself that you should. We've all seen the smiledog.jpgs, the ones with the Siberian Husky in the Polaroid camera. As you guys also know, the image itself has a dog with a smile that does not look like it should be there. It's a human-like creepy smile, almost like a Joker smile, which is just kind of weird for a dog. On top of that, there are blood stains in its teeth, and when you look at the actual original image, there is a bloody hand coming over the corner, which honestly means that he ended up killing his owner or someone else. Some of the accounts of people that have actually seen the original image say that the hand reaching out is actually the devil himself calling you into the picture to go down to hell. It just kind of sounds crazy to me. So in 2008 on 4chan, which is a dark web website, there was the first post of Smile Dog, someone's encounter with the image itself. Let's get into it. This is pretty much where the urban legend slash creepypasta spot started on the dark web. So the story takes place with a character named Terrence E in the summer of 2007. According to Terrence, his boss's wife actually had an original encounter with the image herself. She goes into brave detail about exactly what happened after seeing the image, and nothing in her life has ever been the same since. So Terrence ends up trying to drive to her house to get an interview for this paper. He drives to her house, talks to her husband, and gets ready to do the interview, and then all of a sudden she locks herself into the bathroom and is having an insane mental breakdown, screaming and crying as if she was afraid for her own life. So the backstory goes that Mary in 1992 was just surfing the web when it first became popular and everyone was able to get on. She ends up getting this hyperlink, and what does she do? She of course clicks it. 400 people ended up getting this link, and of course Mary was one of them. As soon as she clicked that hyperlink, she was sent right to the smile.jpg picture. According to the 400 other people that actually saw the picture itself, that is unknown. It does not say who it is or what happened. She is the only account that is actually like recorded, I guess. Of course, him digging for this picture and trying to find the original and see what actually happened to Mary went way too far. One day he ends up getting a link, and of course he clicks it. And what is it? It is the original smile.jpg. Here are some of the things that happen to people who have seen the original. Severe anxiety and night terrors, two things you do not want to constantly deal with. And on the little bit of a higher spectrum, you have hallucinations and seizures, most commonly happening with some of the people who have seen the original image, usually happening at night. And the only way, guys, the only way to lift the curse of smile.jpg is to send it to another person. That is the only possible way to lift that curse off of you and onto someone else. I know it's kind of messed up, but it's the truth. It's really the only way to save yourself from the smile.jpg. But that is going to wrap it up for me today, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, please don't forget to smack a like on it. That'd be greatly appreciated. Comment down below what you guys want me to do next. Follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. I would greatly appreciate that.